Good morning and welcome back to another week of variation on a theme challenges. I just thought I'd quickly start with this very minor project. As you may or may not know, depending on how many of these you've seen, I keep banging on about how fragile Australian native trees can be. And you might see here, this is an acacia which snapped in the winds recently we had, which caused my pine tree to shake most of its canes off itself. Anyway, bonus for me, that's free first kindling. Anyway, so yes, this one also decided to snap. You can see there where it snapped, lost the top part of itself, and just very quickly dealt with that. I pulled it down because it was dangling, and I've separated it into stuff that's going on my bonfire and stuff that's going to go on my curing pile of firewood. And you may remember that I lost another one of these, a much bigger one, whilst I was in the UK. You probably won't be able to see too well from here, but essentially it's just there along the side of my orchard that had lost a branch like this tree had, but then it also then decided to latterly snap itself entirely. Anyway, acacias, eucalyptuses, they're all at it. Hopeless trees. Don't put a tree house in one of them. Probably be quite dangerous. You would have seen me finishing off processing the tree that snapped, and then I came up here and did some clearing. This is the grevillea garden behind the house, and also at the back of the grevillea garden some of the tea tree that died in the bushfire had snapped and fallen over, so some of this stuff, you can see it's growing back, but this bit at the top won't. It's growing back from the base, and these twiggy bits are quite fragile, so they had sort of snapped and fallen over, so came up and dealt with that. And whilst I was up here, I was thinking about sort of the next few projects, and I thought I would just explain this. When you have a property like this, it seems to me that managing it is a bit like playing a game of chess, in that you're not just, although it is important to think about what's happening in the moment in terms of, say, monitoring the weather so that I know that I can have a bonfire this day or that day, but you're also thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves ahead, and this is one of my moves ahead. So you can see here that I've put pink tape on these 4 trees, and these are my first 4 victims of what I'm calling Operation Thinning. So I've started already, as you will have seen, in the woods way up beyond the house, with the trees that have died. But there are also quite a lot of trees which didn't die in the fire, although this acacia is pretty close to it. But nevertheless, I still want thinned, and I'll add these to my seasoning, or what I call my curing pile. And essentially these will then be trees that I can burn 1, 2, 3, 4 years hence. But it's good to have this backlog, and it's good to be able to start doing this at this time of year, because unlike the dead trees that I've been processing, obviously these have leaves, so I can basically saw those off and add them to a bonfire, which is by far and away the fastest way of dealing with not only the leafy bits, but also, say, on this tree, these branchy twiggy bits, which I don't require. So that'll be a project that I'm hoping to start in August, so that I can maybe, my plan is to start on this front strip and work my way around, get beyond the house tank and do this little section here, and then carry on down the hill towards the pond, maybe sort of 4 trees at a time, and if I can get that done by the end of September, which is usually when I'd be thinking about stopping having a bonfire, then I will be pretty happy with that, because I would have just made my house that little bit safer, my property that little bit safer, that little bit more resilient against bushfire, which is the ultimate intention of this project, and the firewood that it generates is a secondary benefit. So that's something that I've got planned for the next couple of months, which will hopefully pay dividends should it need to in the few months and years after that. And now that I've done that, I'm turning my attention to Operation Driveway, which is again another project that I'm doing now whilst I've got access to my bonfire, which is just down there, but which will make my life much easier come late spring, summer, when I'm starting lawn mowing again. And essentially, well, there are some trees overgrowing a fence that borders our drive and our neighbour's orchard, although the land they overhang is also our neighbour's land. But I basically take responsibility for mowing that section of the lawn that goes along our drive, because essentially if I didn't, it would never get done. So I'm taking matters into my own hands, as it's not like they mind. And now I'm going to head up and start Operation Drive, or brackets Operation Stop Bashing My Head. So I'll head up there now. I'm going up in my car, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm up now at the top of our drive, where it joins our main drive. And as I was saying, I take responsibility for mowing this, even though it's not technically our property. This is what I'm referring to. So these trees here, this one's not so bad, but essentially I'll be going along on my ride-on mower, and I'll be having to sort of make my way clear with my hands, whilst also ducking. And you can probably see on this one, like, I'll hold my camera at eye level. You know, this is all beneath me, so it's pretty tricky to get a lawnmower underneath here. So what I'm going to do is just take the minimum amount possible that I can, but these low-lying branches of these trees that hang over this part of the lawn, and I'll work my way around, and then all of this will go on the bonfire, and then come spring, summer, as I say, I'll be able to mow this without bashing my head every 5 meters, or having to do quite an awkward one-handed job whilst I'm shielding myself with my other hand. So time to start Operation Driveway, which is sort of part of my bigger driveway projects, including Operation Ditch, which is on hiatus because, as you can see, probably even as we speak, it's raining. Hasn't stopped raining. All of these potholes are sort of getting worse and worse, but until the drive is completely bone dry, there's nothing I can do about that, because anything I put in there will just float away and won't set properly. So whilst there are certain projects to do with the drive that I can't complete or carry on with, this is one that I can, and in fact is best done now whilst I can get rid of this material through fire. Good morning. Welcome to another day. There's actually not much to report, but as you can see, I'm up in the woods behind the house. This is part of Operation Tree Thinning, and I'm just working on the last pile of wood that Will felled whilst I was back in the UK. So I've filled up my barrow, starting another pile. This is all stuff straight for the fire. I've got a little pile of things that will need to go onto the seasoning pile, and I've separated that also into second kindling and the twicky stuff which is to go on the bonfire. I don't know if you can see, but it's a grey, miserable day today. It's very chilly, But it's nice being up here. I don't know, if I am quiet for a minute you can get a sense of the atmosphere. It's very still. Very flat light. Very quiet. Well, I'm going to crack on with this. Hopefully it won't take me too long, and then I'll carry on today, I think, with Operation Driveway, taking down the plants along the edge, because I'm hoping tomorrow to have another bonfire, but we'll see how that goes. I'll catch up with you later though. I've just finished working on the wood up here, and there's a little plant on the floor. I don't know what it is. If you know, please tell me, but maybe I could look it up in my plant book, but I thought I'd show you because it's really attractive in an understated sort of way. This is what I was talking about. This little plant here. It's only yay high. What's that, sort of half an inch? It's really quite attractive, I think. Got these little carpets of it in amongst the grass, and it sort of spreads out over here. And back down the hill. It's quite soft to the touch. It's not spiky. It's lovely. I'm on my way back down the hill with my fourth and final load of firewood, and I thought I'd quickly stop and show you this. Now, as you know, although we've still got here 1 month of winter to go, it is nevertheless still also spring at the same time. And we've got little bits of this flower starting to come up, and I think, I might be mistaken, I might double check, but I think this is the flower of Victoria, the emblematic flower of Victoria. Australia's national flower is the golden wattle, or the acacia tree, which is a green tree with yellow flowers, which is why in sporting events, if you've ever wondered, the Australian colours are golden green, not the colour of the flags. But anyway, so I think this is the equivalent of the national flower, but the flower of Victoria. It's a type of heather, type of heath, I think it's called. And it's a very pretty pink colour, but yeah, it's just starting to show its head. Another sign of what I call sprinter, this crossover season that we have, which we didn't get in the UK, where it's both winter and spring simultaneously. Welcome to another day of Operation... Oh, here comes the kangaroo. Can you see him? There. Anyway, you've seen them before. Welcome to another day of Operation Driveway, sub-project. Well, in my mind I call it Operation Smackhead, but don't bash my head. So you might remember I was trimming back overhanging branches, primarily of these trees, and clearing along the fence line, and I've now finished all the way down to our boundary, which is here, taking out a lot of the acacia trees that were sprouting up, and as well as the overhanging branches. The reason I'm doing that is so that, number one, when I mow I don't keep hitting my head, and number two, just to make this boundary safer now, because these trees will burn and burn given the chance, and this is our main and currently only way by car in and out of our property, which isn't good in an emergency, but also to stop these trees growing to massive trees, which then run the risk of falling over onto our drive, which could be a problem come an evacuation or emergency, but generally is just a bit of a nuisance. So now I've done the fence side, what I'm going to be doing is just this little bit of tea tree that's growing in the ditch. I do have to keep doing this because it just grows and grows and grows. But I'm gonna try chainsawing it and see how I go. I have left some, and I leave this bit here. That's basically on our boundary, although I keep it trimmed. It's nice to have some plants dotted about, but I don't want this. Partly because tea tree burns mental, but also it's actually, I find, quite dangerous because little wallabies could easily be behind there and then leap out in front of you, or even wombats. So having good visibility reduces the chance of hitting an animal, and they do have a tendency to dart in front of a car. They're not the brightest. So 2 reasons for this, 2 I think both good reasons, but let's see how we go. In other news, if you can see, we have managed to put up the walls in Will's workshop. It's not completely finished. Will wants to clad this column here to this post to disguise it, and I'm in the process of filling in some of the holes because Will's intention is to paint the walls. He's also got cupboards to build and shelves to put up, so it's not finished, but it's finished in principle. Ceiling's done, post with the post drill's done, that's the post drill, and the walls are done. So I'm going to continue filling them, and then I'll maybe show you it again when it's finished, but it's looking quite good for now. By the way, it wasn't an easy job, so each panel had its own peculiarities, but we managed to get there in the end. There we go. Forgive if my strimmer swings into the shot from time to time. Anyway, as you can see, all done. And as I just mentioned, I even went to the trouble of giving it a nice trim. So that should be that done for about the next year or so. Just spin you around this section. Nice and safe and neat-ish. You're never going to be able to get tea tree neat, it's horrible. Anyway, that's that side done. And now, not now, but next, I'll be turning my attention to the other side of the drive. It's only really from this section down. And all I think I want to do is just push these trees back a little bit. And the same down here, just push them back a bit. I'm not going to take them all out, but maybe by about a metre, something like that, so you don't have the sense of overcrowding. And then I'll also be taking out those 2 dead trees because I think they don't make a good start to our property. For context, that's down to the creek walk. That's the Mr. Darcy walk. So now I'm on my property properly. And the last thing I'll do is this little patch here, again just pushing them back, and then this little patch here, which abuts the overflow of the pond, which goes under the road at about here. So I just want to tidy that little section up, and then my work here is done. To be fair, that's probably a day's work tops, so I'm not sure when I'll turn my mind to that. It'll probably have to be next week now, but I'll get there, not long to go. Final push.